Thank you. Good evening and a warm welcome to Rushcliffe Borough Council's Cabinet meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that the Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and a recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, under the Local Authorities, Executive Arrangements, Meetings and Access to Information, England, Regulations 2012, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the Council's control. To start with, I'd like to welcome Councillor Way, who will be asking a question on behalf of the League Independent Group. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Bird and Councillor Regan to the Cabinet meeting. So I'd like to now move the first item on the agenda, which are apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Clark and no other apologies as far as I'm aware. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Can I move the minutes of, can I present the minutes of the previous meeting of the 12th of September as a true record of the meeting? And can I have a proposer, please? Councillor English to propose. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wheeler, thank you. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 4 is citizens' questions. I don't believe we have any citizens' questions this evening. No, thank you. Item 5 then, opposition group leaders' questions. And we have a question from Councillor Way, if you'd like to come and ask your question.
Thank you. There are several issues in the tree management and protection policy that we believe need further discussion, including the contribution non-native species can make to the character and ambience of a conservation area, possible benefits of planting non-native trees at a time when important native species are subject to pests and diseases and facing the impact of climate change, the need to protect trees and hedges on future development sites, which we often see brutally cleared before the application is submitted. The need to increase protection for the area around existing trees from development, as this policy change would increase the threat of trees near new buildings being felled in future. The possibility of non-native trees being increasingly planted in preference to native to avoid TPOs. Does the Cabinet agree that this policy should now come before scrutiny or Council for debate before adoption?
Thank you. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Way, for your question, which could be construed as 6 questions, really, but I'm happy to respond to them all. Questions get ever longer, and so will my response. Question 1, I'll repeat it just to keep us on track. The contribution non-native species can make to the character and ambience of a conservation area. In the Council's point-based assessment, only 1 point can be deducted for a non-native tree in a conservation area out of the possible 16 points. So native, non-native is unlikely to be a determining issue in most cases. Your second question was, I believe, possible benefits of planting non-native trees at a time when important native species are subject to pests and diseases and facing the impact of climate change. This is a good point, and it's reflected in the policy, which seeks to secure the right tree in the right place. The policy is further supported by the local plan, which refers to a broad range of suitable trees, considering future possible climate change and disease. And sites, which we often see brutally clear before the application is submitted. The preservation of existing trees and hedges is considered closely in relation to detailed planning applications, and whenever it is reasonably practical to do so, early intervention is taken to protect them. But this can be especially challenging before a possible application is protection for the area around existing trees from development, as this policy change would increase the threat of trees near new buildings being felled in the future. Well, British Standard 5837 2012 provides detailed advice on how much space should be provided around trees to prevent harm during both the construction activities and afterwards. It's unclear why the policy would increase the threat to trees near to new buildings being felled in the future. Question 5, the possibility of non-native trees being increasingly planted in preference to native to avoid tree preservation orders. The policy allows for non-native trees to be protected in conservation areas. Your final question 6, does Cabinet agree that this policy should now come before scrutiny or council for debate before adoption? Well, I don't agree. The adoption of the revised tree management and protection policy for 2023-28, this is a subject of my agenda item 7 later this evening, and I don't agree it should be further delayed by going back to scrutiny or full council. Indeed, the scrutiny group that looked at this revised policy didn't ask that this subject should be referred back to them again. It's important to get the revised policy adopted and implemented now to give greater protection to trees. We don't want to wait any longer. However, if considered appropriate, I think another scrutiny review could take place after, say, 12 months to assess the working of this policy and to suggest any further revisions. So, in summary, thank you for your questions and I hope that you've given you reasonable responses.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. Councillor Wade, do you have number 7? Supplementary question very quickly because we're running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears to me that this policy will be approved by 5 people out of 44 members of the council. So do the Cabinet members feel this policy has been thoroughly examined and given the reasonable to remove the opportunity for council to comment, debate and vote in a democratic manner?
We are strictly speaking out of time, but I will allow Councillor Upton to briefly respond. Thank you.
Very briefly, I have every faith in the process that this council has to scrutinise subjects and topics and create policy and procedures, and therefore I'm content with the way it was, no matter how many people were in attendance at that scrutiny committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Way. Okay, I'll move us on to item 6, which is the LGA Corporate Peer Challenge, and I will move this paper. The Corporate Peer Challenge is part of the Local Government Association Sector Support Programme. It essentially provides peers from within the local government network who will offer friendly but critical and supportive advice to the council and its work. The council has invited the LGA to conduct a peer review challenge between the 15th and the 28th of January next year, 2024, and the CPC, as well as the obligations that will be placed upon us as a council as part of that process. CPCs are generally believed to be a valuable tool for improvement. It will provide expert advice to help us identify areas for improvement and help us to continue to deliver high quality services to our residents. The process is set out at paragraph 4, and 4.3 sets out the likely constitution of the team that would be visiting us. The challenge will cover the 6 core themes set out in paragraph 4.4. I won't go through them, they're hopefully fairly self-explanatory. At the end of the visit, the peer team will present their headline findings to councillors and officers, and this will be followed by a report with recommendations for specific actions. The council must commit to publish that report and 4.6, and a report will also come back to Cabinet. This is designed to be a helpful and supportive process, but one that offers a robust challenge and independent advice. So I hope that Cabinet will support the recommendations of paragraph 2, to consider the content of the report, to commit to meeting the obligations set out in paragraph 4.6, and to request a report back and the resulting action plan. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. I'm more than happy to second this item. I actually really welcome it because I think we should never be afraid to have outside scrutiny to make sure that we are on course to be where we want to be. I think obviously we know we are one of the best councils in the country, as proven by the shortlist of the Council Year Award. Obviously take that scrutiny on board and to move forwards with it. Also really welcome the engagement we're having by actually suggesting more items to be scrutinised about, which I think actually shows the fact we're not afraid of this and actually wanting some more feedback and to challenge where we are as a council and to make sure we're on the right course. So I really look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Any other comments? Councillor Upton.
I think I'm correct in saying it's about 5 years since the last peer review of the whole council. 6? Well, a week's a long time in politics, they say, so 6 years is a heck of a long time for local government. So I echo Councillor Wheeler's comments. I think that, you know, it's so easy to say to ourselves, well, we're doing things marvellous, everything's right, we're all fine and shipshape. But, you know, I think it's good practice. In fact, I know it's best practice to get an outsider to come in and look at us carefully and give us some ideas, and a critical friend is a best help you can get from time to time. So yeah, welcome the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so the LGA corporate peer review has been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheeler. Can we have a vote all in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll move us on to item 7, adoption of the Tree Management and Protection Policy 2023 to 28. Councillor Upton to move, please.
Thank you. A feeling of deja vu, methinks, and sort of trees tonight. I am a tree hugger, but there we are. Well, at the risk of stating the obvious, trees are key to our natural environment by absorbing carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. They are a habitat and a food source for wildlife. They provide shade and reduce temperatures in the summer and allow light and solar gain in the winter, whilst filtering pollutants, slowing rainwater runoff, binding soil together with their roots, etc., etc. They're a good thing. Their appearance enhances our towns and villages and makes a key contribution to the character of Rushcliffe Borough and many of our conservation areas. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? Rushcliffe has the lowest tree cover of all in the Nottinghamshire boroughs and districts. And that is why we need to be proactive with our tree management and protection policy. This report concerns the proposed adoption of a revised tree management and protection policy for 2023 to 2028, and its publication on the council's website if we adopt it. It provides guidance on how the council will manage its own trees, respond to requests for work to trees from members of the public, and how the council deals with its statutory duties in relation to trees, hedgerows and planning applications. It also contains a revision to the council's points-based assessment, difficult to say some of this, that is used to assist officers when deciding whether trees are suitable to be protected by a tree preservation order. The proposals have been considered by our Growth and Development Scrutiny Group, as I alluded to earlier this evening. If adopted by Cabinet, this policy will be effective until 2028, when it will be reviewed again and potentially updated. It's a continuing moving feast. Now, the legislation covering tree preservation orders allows for significant discretion when deciding trees should warrant protection. This may be a good or a bad thing, but fundamentally our officers use, as I say, a points-based system, and this is summarised in paragraphs 4.4 and 4.5 of the report. The Growth and Development Scrutiny Group recommended that greater consideration is needed to be given to the wildlife value of trees, and this has been incorporated into the revised policy. Paragraphs 4.5 and 4.6 refer to native and non-native trees, and this may need to be considered again in the next revision. So our tree policy is split into 2 sections. The first covers the management of the council-owned trees and is summarised in paragraph 4.1 of the report. The second section considers the council's statutory duties in relation to tree and hedgerow protection and planning matters, and is summarised in paragraph 4.2 of the report. There is an Appendix 1 tree policy, which gives detailed information on both the original and the revised tree assessment methodology. So, in conclusion, I move that Cabinet approves the recommendations set out in paragraph 2 of the report, namely, it is recommended that Cabinet A approves adoption of the Tree Management and Protection Policy 2023-2028, and B, approves the use of the amended Conservation Area Tree Notification and Tree Preservation Order evaluation sheet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Inglis.
Thank you. Yeah, trees are so important to help the world survive as they convert carbon dioxide into oxygen. In Rushcliffe, we're unfortunate to have the least tree cover compared with other boroughs and districts in Nottinghamshire. But the determination is to ensure we address the balance, as can be evidenced with the fantastic take-up of the free tree schemes in recent years. Credit is deserved to the Growth and Development Scrutiny Group for their resolvement and for the officers in the drafting of this well-defined document, which will certainly enhance and protect our existing trees, including wildlife, with clear guidance and protocols as objectives. We only have to look back a couple of weeks to the national outcry to the necessary felling of the sycamore gap tree. We need that passion for every tree, because trees are vital. Trees are beautiful. Trees are part of our world. They contribute great health benefits, so we need to protect them. We need to care for them. We need to replenish them for our future generations. So I'm very happy to second this report and recommending parts A and B in part 9 and to the continued evaluation for its review in 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any other comments? No? Well, thank you both for that. I think it's I think the point you make, Councillor Inglis, about the free tree scheme and how popular that has been, and the point that the borough, although being very green and rural, actually has quite a low level of tree cover, which I think would surprise a lot of people. I think, as you've said, it's an extremely readable document. I think the authors to be commended on that. And I think we'll all agree, I think both Councillor Inglis and Councillor Upton both said trees are a good thing. And I think we can unanimously agree on that at the very least. So thank you both very much for that. Can I have a show of hands in support, please, for the recommendations? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item is the UK SPF and Rural England Prosperity Fund proposed grant pots. We do have some long titles on the papers this evening, don't we? Need your teeth in for it. Right. Okay, I will propose and move these recommendations. The report before Cabinet tonight follows on from previous reports on the same matter and sets out the proposed framework and funding allocations for the third and currently final round of UK SPF, that's the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and the RPF, Rural England Prosperity Fund, across the borough. The paper sets out the background to the funds, which are in support of the government's levelling up agenda and to a degree replace the former EU structural funds. And it sets out the lessons learned from the first 2 rounds of bidding, from our directly commissioned projects, and feedback from successful and unsuccessful bidders into the open grant pot created in 2022-23. Subject to Cabinet's agreement tonight, it's proposed that a new grant pot from the Year 3 funds be created and opened in November 23 to a call for bids, enabling projects to start in April 2024. The grant pot in 22-23 was very much oversubscribed, demonstrating a clear need for the funds across the borough, and the lessons learnt from that comprehensive bidding round are set out in paragraph 4. The outcomes of the feedback include streamlined guidance and the continued use of plain English, a simplified application form, separating out the business and community grant pots, and creating a lower grant threshold for non-high street businesses. Paragraph 4.6 sets out the financial allocation for the year. The allocations were set by government and were weighted to Year 3, so we have more money in Year 3 than the preceding years. And as you can see, that overall allocation for the year is just over £2 million, so a significant level of resource for investment in the borough. This includes some jointly commissioned work to support local businesses across Nottinghamshire, working with other councils and delivered by the East Midlands Chamber. The allocations across the themes were agreed in the investment plan as submitted to government, but there is some scope for us to move funds around to reflect local need of up to 30% between the themes, if necessary. Paragraph 4.11 sets out the proposals and funds available for the communities grant pot. UK SPF and REPF grants will be in effect combined for larger interventions, and a formal bidding round will be launched. Although we keep the funds separate behind the scenes, as it were, it's not necessary for applicants to know it comes from two different sources. So we're rolling that in. They have similar objectives, and they'll be presented as a simplified pot to bid into. The smaller grant pot will be opened from April 2024. That will be on a first come, first served basis, and that's for small projects below £5,000. Paragraph 4.15 sets out the plans for the business support grants and the funds available, and again suggests the formation of a smaller pot for high street businesses, which was very popular in the last round, and again will be allocated on a first come, first served basis. The timeline for bidding is set out in paragraph 4.17 and is hopefully self-explanatory. In addition to the grant pot, the council will commission projects directly once again, including under the people and skills priority, which is a new priority for year 3. And a further funding report will come back. A further report will come back to Cabinet in January to set out the proposals for that allocation. 4.20 sets out the process by which grant applications will be assessed. So far, this has been a really popular initiative. It's been a lot of hard work for officers. I appreciate that, to ensure that due diligence is undertaken on all the bids for funds and to support applicants in coming forward and in feeding back where applicants have been unsuccessful. And in many cases, they were unsuccessful simply because the funds were overbid, not because of the quality of projects. I hope Cabinet will support the launch of round 3 to enable more of these funds to be invested across the borough. So I'd like to recommend, therefore, that Cabinet approves the recommendations. At paragraph 2, to support the proposals as outlined in the report for UK SPF and REPF grant pots, to request a further Cabinet report in early 2024 outlining proposals for the remaining UK SPF funds to be spent in 24-25, and delegate sign-off of grant awards and reallocation of grant funding between priorities if that decision is taken for UK SPF and REPF to the Section 151 Officer and Director Development and Economic Growth, in consultation with the Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Business and Growth, following officer recommendations based on assessment and moderation. So I'd like to move those recommendations, and could I ask for a seconder, please? Councillor Verdi, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As already outlined in your overview and the summary of the report, we've highlighted some very important issues, in particular how important it is for the borough to continue to support and provide opportunities for both businesses and community groups. I think the UK SPF and the REPF provide a great avenue for both communities and businesses to grow and enhance outcomes for our communities and the borough. I agree with the outline of some of the detailed process and processes, and endorse the recommendation to have in the first round and previous year allocations and making the grants very accessible or more accessible. And it's clear that the grant application and provide more clarity on where potential projects and business applications could come from. And I believe the proposals in the report address these concerns. And this includes a process facilitating particular smaller businesses to have an opportunity to apply and not be restricted by significant matching requirements, which I think has been an issue. So I fully support the proposed allocations and revised process as contained within the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Verdi. Any other comments? Councillor Upton.
I just say personally, as a successor to the former EU grant regime, that in my opinion, this is so much better. It actually gets small grants into small communities, which for decades, in my experience, never really happened with the former EU regime. You may guess from that I'm a Brexiteer, but that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. Any other comments? Councillor Wheeler.
I think just again to welcome that report and just give an anecdote from another area in Nottingham, another council. I'm much aware that they literally were not giving away their money at all for UKPS and actually talking to local businesses. They had no idea they could apply for it. So I mean, that just shows the difference that we've been proactive going out there and actually being oversubscribed. And that's showing that we are, as we always have been, on the front foot and trying to support businesses and local community groups. And I think the fact that we are taking out the match funding will make a big difference to a lot of groups, and that puts some off it, potentially trying to find further avenues. So hopefully we can spread that money even further to helping more groups and businesses.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been an extremely popular programme, and it has been a lot of work, but I think to great ends by officers. So we've got some really fantastic projects in the last round, and I have every confidence that we'll get some more excellent projects coming forward, both in communities and from local, larger and small businesses this time around. So thank you for that. So I've proposed a paper. Councillor Verdi has seconded it. Can I have a show of hands in support, please? That's unanimous. Okay, I'll move us on to agenda item 9, which is another snappily titled paper. Assigning strategic significance for biodiversity net gain assessments. Councillor Upton.
I agree, the report headings don't get any easier, but I shan't say it. You've done the job for me. It's a real tongue twister, but it's a complicated subject area. And I think that the heading gives a hint there. But nevertheless, this report proposes a methodology for this council to comply with the implementation of the biodiversity net gain, or BNG requirements. I'll refer to them as I go on, as set out by the Environment Act in 2021, which are expected to come into force in January next year, and to make, where appropriate, BNG a condition of planning permissions. As I say, BNG can be a rather complicated subject area, and especially the concept of the BNG strategic significance of a site, which is, as the title of this report states, the key issue of the report. Hope everybody's still with me, but it gets a little bit more complicated before it gets better. However, essentially, the BNG of the site needs to be determined by our Rushcliffe local strategies and policies. So it becomes a little bit unique to us, as it will be fundamental to assessing planning applications to us. BNG is a way of contributing to the recovery of nature whilst developing land. It is a mechanism to try and ensure that the habitat for wildlife is in a better state than it was before the development, and in most cases a minimum of 10% BNG will be required. The concept that the development of land can improve the habitat for wildlife may be a challenging one to some people, but as an example, the development of an intensively farmed arable field with very little, if any, wildlife habitat may be improved by development that includes trees, hedges, parks and ponds, etc. So we must have a methodology for assessing and demonstrating BNG for a site, and the government have published, in their wisdom, a spreadsheet for this. Now, this spreadsheet must show the baseline biodiversity value before the development and the expected value after the development. Still with me? Good. Importantly, the BMG spreadsheet includes a different multiplier depending on the strategic significance of the site. This is a fundamental requirement, and this is the main reason for this report. Paragraph 4.5 of the report gives details of the various site criteria and their associated multipliers. I quite frankly haven't got the time this evening to go through all that detail, but it is there in the appendix. Paragraph 4.6 is key to the methodology to be used, and I quote, "It is proposed that sites regarded by Rushcliffe Borough Council as strategically significant and benefiting from formally identified in a local strategy multiplier in the biodiversity metric spreadsheet are development sites which are within or immediately adjacent to," and there are 4 bullet points in the report, designated priority sites, listed green and blue infrastructure sites, focal areas, and sites with a reasonable wildlife value. There are maps of the borough that show these areas. So the concept is, if your application planning permission is next to one of these 4 key sites and are influenced by our council strategy and policies, then you get some points and you put them on the government spreadsheet and in the matrix, and it comes out with a score. This subject area in the proposals in this report were considered and approved by our Growth and Development Scrutiny Group in July this year, and as I say, they form the basis of the report. There are detailed appendices and various maps, as I say, so I think I'll stop there. As I say, it's a detailed and complicated subject area, and the proof will be in the pudding if it by law has to start in January next year, which isn't that far away. So in conclusion, I move that Cabinet approves the recommendations as set out in paragraph 2 of the report, namely, it is recommended that Cabinet considers and, if satisfied, approves the proposals for assessing strategic significance under biodiversity net gain. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Upton. Well done. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor England.
Thank you. Yeah, I would concur with Councillor Upton that it is a complicated title and report, but fundamentally this report sets out how Rushcliffe's local strategies and policies can be used to score different development sites onto a government spreadsheet for I'll use the term BNG. The BNG can be a means to safeguard wildlife and habitation. Again, as Councillor Upton alluded to leave a development in a better state than it was before. And especially if we can get that minimum of 10%, that will be required. This must be a good and positive thing to achieve, as it is possible that a developed site under this legislation could actually provide more wildlife habitat gain than, say, an arable field. We really have no choice in this, as it is a requirement under the Environment Act of 2021, which is expected to come into force in January next year. And it will enable Rushcliffe Borough Council to be able to influence proactively BNG delivery through the borough. The report asks that Cabinet considers and, if satisfies, approves the proposal for assessing strategic significance under biodiversity net gain. So yes, I'm satisfied the proposal to address BNG for the borough, so I'm happy to second the recommendation as in part 9. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? No? Thank you both. I think it might sound rather dry, but actually I think it's something close to all of our hearts as we've seen development grow across the borough, that we should be doing everything in our power to try to mitigate that and to enhance the natural environment where we can. And even if this were not to become law, there are many of us that would consider we should be doing this in any event. So thank you very much for that. Can I have a show of hands in support of the recommendations, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. And I believe that concludes the business. No, it doesn't. No, I've got as me again. Thank you. Yes. Well, it's showing my age. Never mind the age of the council. Okay. Item number, what item number are we? 10. Right. 50th anniversary plans. Rushcliffe Borough Council will be 50 next year. It's hard to believe. We slip of a thing. It's 50 years since the Local Government Act of 1972 came into force in 1974. I can't believe that is half a century ago. The Local Government Act in force in 74 saw the creation of a 2-tier local government structure with a county council and then 8 districts. Obviously, since that time, Nottingham City's become a unitary, but then there were 8 districts and a county council. The new borough of Rushcliffe encompassed the 2 former districts of Bingham Rural District and West Bridgford Urban District, and a part of Basford Rural District. So we'd like to mark this incredible anniversary by delivering a number of projects to celebrate our golden anniversary, to recognise the contribution of the council to local, regional and national government, and most importantly, to celebrate some of the key dates, events and individuals who have given their time to make a difference in their communities with the council or as councillors. Paragraph 4 sets out our proposed plans. The main focus will be on displays here in the atrium, in the atrium at the arena here. And that will be supported by a wider communications and media toolkit, including across our social media. All associated promotional material will use our logo rebranded in shimmering gold with the strapline celebrating 50 years of Rushcliffe. And I also believe that the materials that will be used for the display in the arena could well be transported to other places, community halls, parish council halls, and so on, in due course, if people would like to have some of that presentation in their communities. Our existing programme events that we currently undertake, activities like Lark in the Park and the Taste of Rushcliffe, will also be branded our 50th anniversary theme, and will have displays and themes in those events that celebrate the anniversary. All of this will be delivered within our existing resources. So can I please move the recommendation at paragraph 2 that Cabinet approves proposals to undertake a series of initiatives to commemorate the past 50 years. And can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. More happy to second. I think it's really important that we do recognise these sort of milestones and to celebrate what we do as a council, and actually to use opportunities as well to help educate some people in terms of what we do as a council and the history. Because, I mean, for example, we can work with local schools around the difference between why you have a mayor as a borough council and not as a district council as chairman. Not many people know that. Many councils probably don't know that. And obviously the history of Rushcliffe. So I think it really is a good opportunity to celebrate what we've done over 50 years and to not be, and we shouldn't be afraid to do that. Like I say, even with money being tight as it is, we're showing we're going to do it on a budget, so to speak. So we're not seen as spending lots and lots of money to celebrate ourselves in a hard time. But at the same time, yeah, we should shout about what we've done, and hopefully it'll be a good celebration.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Any other comments, observations? No? Okay, thank you. So that celebrating 50 years anniversary is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wheeler. Can I have a show of hands in support, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. So now, I peaked too early, story of my life. So now I'd like to think that concludes our business for this evening. So thank you all very much.